It's like it says at the beginning, it's a recap time as we jump into more Apex content from Family Time with myself and my cousins. I again stick with Mirage. We still got a Seer, and, well, the other one mains Horizon, so we stick with Horizon. But instead of waiting in the lobby, we jump right into the gameplay this time around with some. I mean, honestly, with how we did, we were out to get RP. We were out to get RP, and I think we more than accomplished that with this, this time around. We more than accomplished getting RP this time around and doing what we set out to do. And I not only did that with these guys, but I would do it again later in the night with some friends, as my goal last night was to get some footage and to get content, and I did exactly that. So I don't traditionally like dropping early, but from what I remember, I don't think this went particularly bad. So sometimes I guess it isn't the worst thing to drop early. It's just most of the time it is. Don't ask what I do here when we drop, because I actually remember now that I'm looking at it, I remember doing this. And I made the mistake in the previous video for Apex where I was running in one direction, wasted a time, instead of jumping right down and getting to it looking for a gun. I did it last time looking to see if I see anybody, because they said my teammates were saying how they heard fighting in the previous video. This time I had no excuse. I was just going to run the opposite way because I saw a shiny object and was running towards it. But now I, again, ironically enough, oh, actually, no, I think I do end up. Or do I not end up with the charge rifle? No, I end up with the Volt. That's a different, yeah, I end up with the Volt and the Mozam. That's a different map, or a different game when I end up with the charge rifle, which is a rare sight for me, going for the chargy. But 90% of the time when I start pinging guns, I don't end up realizing that my teammates are not by me anymore. So it's almost like, well, why are you pinging guns if your teammates ain't there? And in that situation, I did forget that I had a shotgun. But as usual, for whatever reason, the game seems to actually, I know why they do it. It's because of whatever gun you have open. That's traditionally what they put it on. Unless it's a optic that can't go on a specific gun, then they traditionally put it on the gun, whatever gun you have in your hand, and that's why that gun ends up with what I have. And surprisingly, I end up keeping the Volt, or unsurprisingly, I should say, I end up keeping the Volt. And this is about the third time when somebody says, oh, there's an Evo shield out here. Come get the Evo shield. And I finally make the move to go out and get the Evo shield. But I was a little confused because I came out here to look for the Evo shield, again, getting distracted by the shiny object in the sky, not really paying attention to the fact that the Evo shield, much like picking up a weapon, is most important. But we were lucky because of where we landed. There wasn't anybody there, so taking our time is something that we could do. And that's also something that I prefer doing in this situation, because I prefer taking my time and being able to take it easy as far as looting, rather than having to loot and jump right into a fight. I know some people would, point to that being not their way of doing things, but as far as how I prefer to do things, I prefer taking my time as opposed to rushing and forcing myself into a fight that I'm not ready for. I think, did I not realize that I picked up, yeah, that's when I realized I picked up heavy ammo. But this is also when I make the point to say I feel like I'm running for a while, because as you notice, I'm here by myself and my teammates are far, far ahead of me, because I also have a bad habit of not paying attention and just being so wrapped up with looting that I don't pay attention to when my teammates leave. And I end up being left behind, as you saw one of my teammates at the replicator and the other one over here taking the zip line. I think this is when we figure out that there's people there, but we also have to be aware of the zone. So it's sort of like, well, do you want to go with the zone or do you want to go with the people? And I think in this situation, we decide to go with the zone. I can't remember, though. Yeah, we try and go with the zone. We decide to go with the zone and cut through the house, from what I remember. Because it's like going towards the fighting would put us in the opposite direction of zone, so we end up going and doing the right decision and going to zone, as opposed to standing and fighting and keeping us out of zone for longer. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with not going to zone instantaneously. I'm saying that if going to a fight takes you away from going to zone and you're going the opposite direction, at some point you have to just think, well, what's more important, going to zone or going to a fight? And going to zone is always more important. And this is when I realize that zone is nipping at our heels, and that we look to see where we have to go, and then we decide zipline. Because the zipline will take us right in front of zone. I think I end up jumping off a little too early, but I also think we end up jumping off at the house. We jumped off here to go to the house, to go through the house, so we know, much like what happened last time at the end of the video, where I was not in cover and I did not have any cover around me. I end up playing it smart this round, which is rare for me to say, and I'm not, again, trying to burn myself down. I'm just saying that I play it smart, and we run through the houses to keep cover and protect ourselves, and then I stay back and wait for my teammates until I know that everybody's there. And then we end up... I believe this is where we end up in a fight momentarily. This might be where we end up in a fight momentarily. We might end up in a fight momentarily. I'm not sure. I would assume we do, because, we didn't... The one thing I will say about... Oh, no, this is when we end up in the midpoint of the cave, where we're just looting. But the one thing I will say is we didn't really go much time last night without fighting. In the 2 hours that I played, I spent a lot of time fighting, a lot more time fighting than I normally do. And we didn't die that often. Typically typically it seems like I normally die pretty consistently. And I'm, again, not saying it to insult my abilities. I'm not the most skilled Apex player. It's just the fact that I'm more confident with certain teammates than I am with other teammates. It's just the fact that I don't want to limit myself to only playing with certain people. Even though family time is always a good time, I don't always want to limit myself to playing with certain people. And this is when we're trying to figure out where we're going as far as the zipline. Because the ziplines on Broken Moon, huge help. A huge help, and are 100%. I'm not just saying that because I'm a big fan of ziplines. And this is when we actually get hit. This is actually a fight. This is not the fight, again, that I'm thinking about. But again, I'm happy that I was able to do what I did. I just stayed where I was for too long. Because I was out in the open. The one thing that I'm learning is the worst thing you could do is stay out in the open if you don't have to. Like, you want to stay and protect yourself to where you know where the shots are coming from, and you know that the people either have one way to come in or another way to come in. So I would say that the one mistake I made was I should have followed the other person inside instead of staying there. Like, I should have shot, and ran, or I should have hip fired. The one problem with ADSing is the fact that you 90% of the time have to stand still. But I will point out My teammates took down the squad. My teammates took down the squad, and we stayed alive. You know, the amount of times that I ended up with 100 plus RP out of games last night, I think it was like a fairly decent amount of them. But with us RP fishing last night, we did exactly what we set out to do, and that is an awesome feeling to know that we actually set out to gain RP, and that's what we did. It's always a good feeling when you accomplish your goals or what you set out to do, even basic goals like gaining RP in Apex. Shield swapping here. Shield swapping here. This is actually the game that I figured, and I ended up shield swapping because I realized that somebody had a better shield. I also need to stop playing on this overlay when I record it because it would allow me to be able to see it a little bit better if it was on a bigger screen. Because of how I do it, and if you don't know how I do this, the reason why there's no game audio is because I edit out the game audio and re-dub over the game audio after the fact to, well, recap what happened as opposed to showing it the way it is. Maybe one of these days I will actually record it the normal way so you guys can actually get game audio, but that's beside the point. Or that's a conversation for the next time, not, well, this time. As we are where we in on one of the more unsafe areas of the map because it is completely wide open, but from what I remember, I think my teammates were seeing people or saw people before we got up here, and now we get up here and we're puzzled because of the point in the game that we're at. How people are here and not like how there are places of the map that that haven't been looted. Because you would figure at this point that there would be places that there wouldn't necessarily be places on the map that haven't been looted. But we take advantage of it and, well, we look around to see if there's anything we want. With 30, we are at a 30 RP. I mean, we are getting up there with positive RP. Any positive RP is good RP, in my opinion. And I'm realizing that maybe I shouldn't be doing it. Well, there are other ways to be doing this. This is where the mistake comes, but it was something we had to do to get the people out from behind us. But this was one of the mistakes that we looked back on, and both my teammates agreed that it was probably a mistake, but it's something we had to do because otherwise we would have a team behind us and it would end up coming back to bite us. So as you see, we're fighting what I believe to be a duo. I could be wrong, but a duo trying to get back into the zone. As I have to back up because I get hit next to directly with a thermite grenade. But my teammates are there fighting as they re-enter the fray. And I think I jump into the storm and try and help them just as they end it, just as they end the fight. Because I'm always hesitant of jumping into the zone. Even if we know we could get in and get out without taking too much damage, this is the fight that ends up hurting us. Because they did take advantage of it because my teammates both knew that they were healing and we had to take them out. But as you see, this is what threw me off. I see the seer bubble and I know that means people are around. But we're at a loss because we end up having to go this way, but the time we spent here trying to figure out which way to go, in my opinion, is what ends up hurting us because the zone's coming. It ends up hurting us because the zone ends up chasing after us and trying to chase us down. I don't know necessarily if there's people. Oh, no. Yeah, there's somebody. I remember now. There's somebody. It should be showing up momentarily. They should be showing up momentarily, from what I remember. And here he is. And this is actually who I believe takes me out, because I, for whatever reason, don't realize where the bubble is. There. I don't necessarily realize where the zone is. So I end up running the opposite direction, and because it's so late in the game, I don't realize the damage that I'm taking staying in the zone. And the only reason why we're caught out from the zone is because of the fight we got in before we ran for zone. But in hindsight, we all agreed it was the right decision, because otherwise we would have had a team behind us. So instead of being third-partied, and it ends up costing all three of us, but instead of being third-partied, we risked being caught out of the zone. And in hindsight, because of how damaging the zone is when you get to the top 5, it ended up costing us in the long run. But ultimately, I do believe it was the right decision, because it was better than having, inevitably being third-partied by another team. But that's just my opinion. You can let me know your thoughts on that down below. Would you have gone on the fight that we did, or would you have ran for zone? Let me know down in the comment section below, because this is my time to say goodbye, and I will see you in the next video. Till next time.